Hello, welcome to GOT. Today we're going to talk about the next generation of iPhone, and I mean the iPhone 17 and the iPhone Air. We're going to compare it to the iPhone 16 and see what is different. And is it worth upgrading or actually changing to the iPhone Air? Let's go. Now, when I talk about comparing the three of these phones, they all pretty much look the same when it comes to software. So we'll start there. If you look at the three of them, they look almost identical. Of course, I have the pretty much the same setup, and they perform just the same as one another. And for example, if you open up, let's say the App Store, that's just as fast on all of them. And you can see the obvious difference here. The iPhone Air is a little bit larger. It's a 6.5-inch screen versus a 6.3. Now, if you want to go larger, you can go with the Plus, or actually the Max model of the iPhone Pro, but only in the Pro you can get the larger size, which is a 6.9. I didn't go for that because I don't go for the larger size phones. But you no longer have the standard iPhone Plus. iPhone Plus was right there just above the standard phone in size. It was a 6.7, I believe. That no longer exists. Now we have a little bit smaller with the 6.5-inch on the Air. And as you can see here, it does look significantly larger even than the 6.3. The 6.3s are a bit larger. As you can see here, here is a 6.1-inch. So they've got quite a bit of difference. And you can imagine if they kept all 5 sizes there, it'd have been a little much, I guess, to contemplate. But I digress. Let's get back to the models we have on hand here. So all these phones now have the dynamic island. And as you can see, it's right there in the center. It's no longer the notch, which they got rid of a couple years ago. And on all these phones, they have the same buttons here. So this is the new iPhone Pro here. As you can see, it's got that full-size stage or platform or whatever you want to call it, whereas on the Air it has a partial, but they do go all the way across. Now they do still have a little bit of a protrusion with the cameras on them, as you can see there, so it's not quite as smooth as something, say, like the Pixel, where it's all included inside this island or whatever they want to call it. And then they all have the same buttons. As you can see, they have the action button right there on the side that you can program volume control, and they all look the same, even though this is quite a bit thinner. And then on the opposite side, they have the power button and the camera control button, where you can zoom in and out with these. And I'm finding them to be a little nuisance. And as you see here, it's the same on all of them, which is no change from last year's model. There's the camera button, there's everything. Everything's the same. So nothing's really changed there. All these phones are similar. The big difference is going to be the thinness of the Air. As you can see here, look how thin that bad boy is. That's just really super thin compared to the newer iPhone. Now, is a new iPhone any thinner than the older iPhone? No, I don't think so. I think they're about the same size and thickness. Actually, it might be a little thicker. I'll have to look at the specs and put them on the screen. But the difference in these two is the weight. The older one does feel quite a bit weightier than the new phone because it is made of titanium and glass, where this is made of all aluminum. And the solid aluminum makes for a lighter phone. And then, of course, it's all a unibody. Everything's sealed in here. And the reason they did that is so they could put components inside here, leaving space inside the full chamber of the phone to, whoa, to increase the size of the battery and to add. See there, I keep taking pictures all the time when I don't mean to. And anyway, so they add the space by putting components in here so they can add that cooling chamber as well as the larger battery in this thing. And some of you may think it's a nicer look than the older model, and others may not. I think it's pretty interesting. My wife likes the two-tone look. I'm not sure that I do yet, but I definitely didn't like the stovetop, so I guess anything is better. Now, both the new phones come with iOS 26 installed, and what iOS 26 does is it adds that liquid glass. If you see here, if I were to go down and pull this down, I don't know if you can really see it on screen here, how this kind of looks like a liquid glass here flowing. Well, you can get that over here as well. I updated the 16 to the iOS 26, and you got the same thing here. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to get the dates or the years lined up with the phones. So in other words, since we're nearly in 2026, Now these would be considered iOS 26. I want to take a quick second time much. I appreciate you for tuning in the channel as we talk about the iPhone Air and the new iPhone Pro look. If you like this video and got something out of it, please do me a favor, smash that like button down below. It really does help out the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the newer content on these phones. Let's get back to the video. So let's get into the differences about these phones this year. As you can see here, so frustrating. You can't pick up these phones these days without hitting a button and something turning on. That's just a little side gripe I have with this newer iPhone styles. So anyway, the A19 Pro chip that's inside the new phone versus A18 Pro. Needless to say, you're going to get better performance without going to a lot of specs. So you're going to get a little bit faster performance. Is it noticeable in the day-to-day? No, it is not. You won't notice it whatsoever. And then, of course, there's that design on the outside with the camera, and the camera being one of them being upgraded, and that is the zoom lens. Finally, they're catching up with the competition because their zoom lens is a 48 megapixel, not the lousy 12 or 10 megapixel they put in the past. I guess last year's was a 12 megapixel. This is a 48 megapixel, has a larger sensor, so it's got a 4x zoom instead of a 5x zoom that you get on this one. So with the larger sensor, they're saying, and of course the more megapixels, you'll get a better image, even if you go up to 5x zoom on this one, being the iPhone 17 Pro. Now, we're going to do some camera tests on these, and we're going to also compare it to the single camera on this one. So that's another fallback. You went from a dual camera system on the standard phone to a single camera, but the single camera has a fusion system where it's supposed to be two cameras in one. As I see here on the screen, they have the standard 48 megapixel, which is great, and then a 12 megapixel zoom lens built in up to 2x. And we'll see how that works and see if there's a benefit in having that camera set up in this phone. Now, looking at all three of these, I started out with the standard camera, and as you can see, they all look pretty much the same. They have the same dynamic range. Look at the clouds in between the trees. They look really good. And when you zoom in, everything looks pretty clear. You know, you don't want to go in too far because if you go in too far, you start to get everything blurred. But everything looks very nice, very clean. If you look, see all the mushrooms on the ground. And the older phone seems to be a little brighter. In other words, the iPhone 16 image is a little brighter. Is it clearer? I don't know. I think there's a little more yellow tint to the newer iPhones, and that could probably be something that you could take out using some of the filters, but I didn't do that. I just left them on the natural setting. So I just did a point and shoot on all these photos. Now, this is a 2x zoom on all three phones. And when you zoom in on them, they all look really clear. I don't have an issue with any of them. So I think you would be happy with any of them. The clarity on all of them is really good. So I would not hesitate to get the Air with this camera. Now, where things really do change a little bit is when you use the zoom camera on the Pro models. For example, here, you see the 16, I went ahead and used its 5x zoom, set it for that. Whereas on the new iPhone 17, it is a 4x zoom. And I just went ahead and did the 4x zoom, I believe, on the iPhone Air. And as you can see, they all still look pretty good. And I think the Air is holding up pretty well. There is quite a bit more clarity in the Pro models, as you can see here in this image. But I think that the Air is doing pretty good for cropping in. So I think they did a really good job with their AI or whatever they're doing to get the Air to really take a good photo. Now, the Air does have a settings in the photos where it will go up to 10x zoom. However, it's all digital. And when you compare it next to the other two and their 10x zoom, they do come out quite a bit better. And is the iPhone 16 even outshining the iPhone 17 in the zoom? It's really hard to tell. They're pretty close, but I think you do get a little bit more detail on the iPhone 16 Pro than you do the 17. Now, looking at macro photography, if you like to do the really close photography, you can't really do as much on the new Air as you can on the other two. The other two Pros, as you can see here, you can get a really close and they both take very good, clean photos. And this was as close as I can get on the one setting. So I went ahead and stayed there and went 2x on the Air. And as you can see here, it did a little bit better. It's not quite as close as the pros, but it's pretty close and pretty clear. So I would be kind of pleased with that. The clarity's there. I mean, if you do a lot of bug photography or zooming in on things really close, then you may not want to go for the Air. But this actually, for the moment, took a good photo. Now let's look at the nighttime photography. We start off with a little close-up portrait shot of myself here, and you can see they all did pretty much the same. I don't have a complaint about any of them. They're all really clear because they're using that 48 megapixel camera lens. So I think they really did good, and the coloring is about the same on all of them. Now here's a standard shot just down the street in my neighborhood. Looks pretty nice, and I think they all did really good. And if you zoom in here, let's say zoom in on that rock and tree, they're all pretty much comparable because they're all using that same 48 megapixel camera. So you're getting the same imagery with the Air as you do the two Pros. So I don't think you're losing out anything there on taking a standard shot at night. Now on this 2x zoom, you can see things a little more clearly. On the 16 model Pro, you can see is a little brighter. It gives you a little more, and I think it's a little more natural color, where the other two are yellowing it still just a little bit more, but they're pretty much the same. And if we zoom in a little bit on that rock, they all look pretty good using this 2x camera. You can see you're getting a little more detail on the two Pro models than you are the Air. I'm not quite sure why, since they're all using the same camera, but it just could be processing of some sort. But you've got a little bit more of a blurred image on the iPhone Air. Now, just so you all know, they are all on camera stands to put them on timers, so there's nothing to interrupt. They're taking these nighttime photos. Now, even in going a 5x zoom on the 16, you can see it's still quite a bit lighter and a little bit brighter than the other two. And on the iPhone Air, I just went ahead and did 4x to match the Pro model of this iPhone 17 Pro. And you can see it's doing pretty good, but when you zoom in, say on that window, you can see how much clearer it is on these other two. When you zoom in on that window, they are quite a bit clearer. And I even say that the 16 Pro is still clearer than the 17 Pro. Now looking at video starting with the daylight. Okay, here we go. They're all shooting at 4K, 60 frames a second, or I'm sorry, 30 frames a second. And you can see here they're all doing pretty well. I've got a nice colorful backyard and everything looks really nice. They all look really good. How's the exposure? Did it transition well on all of them? Let's see, over here we get more sunlight. If we're going straight into the sunlight, what happens here? How do they handle it? I mean, it hurts my eyes, but these things seem to be doing well. And transition to the shade okay. How is the sound on each of them? I'm standing behind them as I'm carrying them on a homemade kind of a gimbal. It's actually just a stiff tripod. The gimbal functions all within the cameras themselves. So how steady are they? If I move a little faster, how are they doing? As you can see, they look pretty good, I think. Now let's see how they do on their zoom. Here we'll go to 2x zoom on each of them. Do they flow really smooth? I think they all flow pretty smooth themselves. And then what will the most you can do is 6x on the Air. So that's 5x on the 16 Pro and 5x on the 17 Pro video. And then 6x on the actual Air. That's the most you can do. If I back it down a little bit, say back it down to 5x, are they compatible there? Seems to be doing okay. I think they limited it 5x because they don't want to give you that horrible image. So that's not bad for the daytime camera on all three. Let's go back to one here. How smoothly do they go backwards? They all seem to go back fine. And that's the daytime video. So here's a night shot on all three of them, and they all seem to be pretty compatible. I still think the iPhone 16 is a little bit brighter even at night. I don't think you can quite see it here on this video, but I could see it clearly when I was out there recording. And they all are a little wobbly when you spin at night. It's a matter of gaining focus when you turn on these things. It makes it look a little wobbly, but they're all doing really good. The iPhone 16 does not have the light flares like the other two. So the 17 and the Air went back to having flares with the light, so or lens flare, I guess you can call it. Plus, they have that nighttime speck in the video. That's something that I've always found with iPhones. And then when you go to zoom in on all of them, it's just pretty pitiful on the Air, and you could see all the pixelating. Even on the 16, it's pixelated. It doesn't see the pixelation on the 17 Pro, but I think that's simply because they darkened it. It's a little darker. I don't know if you want to call that clear or not, but I think they're all kind of blurred. So zooming at night on an iPhone is really not the thing to do because you don't get a very clear picture at all. Now I'll show you a little bit of the selfie features with the center stage that you have on these phones, and I'm using the iPhone Air to do this. Now, what you can see I did here is I did a screen recording so you can see everything I did. I had to play around with it at first because this square button or rectangle button with these arrows around it, if you press it manually, it'll manually force it into landscape mode. But when you do that, it turns off center stage. So you got to switch back and turn center stage back on, which is the silhouette up top. So rotation is on. Now, if someone enters the view of the camera, then it'll automatically do the center stage thing where it widens out so they can see it. I'm cueing my wife here to walk into the scene. So she's going to walk in to the scene here and it should pick her up and it should go ahead and change. I don't know why it didn't do it there. Maybe it's checking to see if she's just a walker buyer, but then it picks her up right there and changes. So it was just a little bit delayed. So it put her in the view, and then when she walks back in, she's still in the view. And then when she walks behind me, check it out, it automatically zooms back on me and then it sees her again and zooms back. So it's not the perfect thing, but it does work pretty well. So now it's zoomed back on me because she's out of the frame. Now, I wanted to try and work it on video. So I turned on video to see what would happen. And when you got the video running, and I have it at HD 30 frames per second, I found out that it does not work in video whatsoever because there she is standing there. It will not adjust. So it only works on photos and not on video. She can even come into the screen here and it still will not adjust. I thought it would work with video, but that's interesting that it does not. So the one exception is in FaceTime. FaceTime center stage works and it follows you around, as you can see here. And if you were to put somebody else in the scene, it would also widen. So you can use it in FaceTime. So that center stage works on all the models this year. So that's a great addition to this year's iPhone models. So I know I failed to mention earlier that the iPhone Air has the A19 Pro chip in it, just like the Pro phones. So there's a lot to this phone, a lot more than what was in the iPhone Plus. The Plus, of course, being a little bit larger and having a second camera, that was the advantage of it, and having a larger battery. So the battery on this thing is a little bit smaller, but it does have a more efficient chip in it. So it should give you a full days of use. For example, it is now, as you can see on these, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I took these both off charger the same time this morning, and the Air is at 71% and the iPhone Pro is at 76%. I've only used them for photo shoots this morning, and what you've been seeing here during my recording, them being on the whole time. So I don't think I'd worry about the battery life on your iPhone Air. I think it's going to last you a full day. And of course, at night, you can just slip it on a 15-watt charger, charge that battery up while you sleep, or you can plug it in and it does 35-watt charging wired. So that's better than all the previous years. I know there's some of you who are probably expecting to get more out of this video. Well, I've only had these 48 hours, so there's more videos to come. What I want to know right now is, what do you think of the new iPhone Air? Does this look attractive to you? Or do you like the new look of the new iPhone Pro and all its features? I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments below. Now, I've been looking at and reviewing and using iPhones for a long time. This is the first time they really did something new with this thin phone. So in my unboxing, I wanted to do something new and different. So I pulled in some assistance and got an avid iPhone user to give me her first impression and view of this new phone and the new iPhone Pro. If you want to see that, check out this video here. And if you want to see more videos on these phone and comparisons, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day and God bless.